Good morning, Year 6. Today is Tuesday, the 16th of June 2020. Our LI today is to plan a story related to a theme of Skellig. So for today's lesson, we're going to be planning our story, using a planning structure. And you have also been sent a DAD waivers sheet, which you are going to need to use for your planning. I will explain what that is very shortly. So first of all, I would like you to write the date and the LI, please, in your books. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is the things that I want to see in your writing and the things that your secondary schools have said they would like to see in your writing. So number one is effective use of punctuation. Number two is sentence structure being used for impact on the reader. Number three is figurative language. Number four is DAD waivers. And number five is adverbial phrases. So we're going to go through them in a little bit more detail, and you can make notes on those things as we go through, just to help you make sure you're including them when you are doing your planning and when we start writing the story tomorrow. So number one is effective use of punctuation. So we need to be using speech marks. So remember, speech marks are what we use, or inverted commas are what we use when a character is speaking, and it can be used to help develop the characters and plot. Direct speech needs to sit inside the speech marks, and it needs to be carefully structured and punctuated to clearly separate it from the rest of the text. So remember, we always have new speaker, new line. Okay, so the reader knows that a new character is speaking. The other type of punctuation we need to use effectively is apostrophes. So remember to use them correctly. Apostrophes are only used for possession or contraction. So for example, when you're talking about something belonging to someone, so that's Sarah's pen, or as a contraction, so if you remember, the word couldn't would actually be could not, shouldn't would be should not, and wouldn't would be would not. But you put a apostrophe in there, so it becomes a contraction and it becomes couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't. Commas, we're going to use a comma to separate clauses so that our writing makes sense, and also using them in lists, including lists of descriptions such as old, pale and grey. If you're not too sure about how to put commas in there for clauses, there's lots and lots of help online, and we also have done a grammar lesson on parentheses using commas. So if you look back on the YouTube videos, you should be able to find it as well. Exclamation marks. Remember to use exclamation marks to show excitement or anger, but do not overuse them. Then you kind of take away from the importance of the exclamation mark if you use them in every single sentence. Okay, so only use them when you really want to create an impact on the reader. Okay, so now we're going to look at how sentence structure can be varied for different effect. So remember, we have long sentences and short sentences. So longer sentences can create a slower rhythm in a story. So if you were trying to do a really nice descriptive introduction, you might use longer sentences. You can include, like I said, plenty of descriptive detail and create a sense of time dragging. So if you want the time to go slower, you would probably write longer sentences. And short sentences can create a choppy, punchy rhythm, draw attention to dramatic thoughts or actions, and create a sense of panic or breathlessness. So remember, if you want to speed up the action, then you would use short sentences, or maybe if you want to create tension in a story, you might use short sentences as well. Okay, you may make notes, pause at any point along this video just to make notes on any of these if you would like to keep them so that you can remember them when you're writing your stories tomorrow. Okay, figurative language. We've done a lot of work on figurative language, so this is just going to be a very quick recap. Figurative language is that which is used non-literally to create a special meaning. It often has different meanings or intentions beyond the ways in which the words or phrases are used. Okay, so it's not a on the face value type of sentence. You almost have to think about how the words are put together and they're used to portray a certain image. So similes are used to compare the characteristics of two unlikely things using the words like and as, than and as if. This comparison is intended to make description more vivid. So he is as quiet as a mouse is an example of a simile. A metaphor is when characteristics of two things are merged together, so it becomes that one is the other. So for example, she's a ray of sunshine. So instead of saying she's happy all the time, by saying she's a ray of sunshine, you are saying that she's a happy person and seeing sunshine makes you happy. So we're merging the two ideas together. Personification is when the writer gives human characteristics or actions to non-human things, such as objects or animals. So, for example, the leaves danced on the tree. So you're making the leaves almost come to life. Alliteration is a technique used where you repeat the same consonant sounds in a sentence. So, for example, please pass the pie. You've got a repetition of the letter P there. Onomatopoeia is words which sound, suggest, or resemble a sound of what they're describing. So, for example, the snake hissed loudly is onomatopoeia because hiss sounds like the snake sound. You can also use words such as bang, crash, thump, those kind of words which give you the indication of what kind of sound it is trying to describe. And the last one is idiom, which is an expression that doesn't actually mean what the words say. It is a group of words that, when put together, mean something that is not related to the meaning of the individual words. So they're basically like sayings. And one of those is cat got your tongue. That means obviously a cat hasn't really got your tongue. It means that you suddenly decided not to talk anymore. So when we say cat got your tongue, that means are you not going to talk now? Okay. So those are figurative language, and again, your teachers will like to see you using them in your writing. So you can pause here and make notes on that. Okay, DAD waivers. As I said, you've been given a sheet with different boxes for each type of DAD waiver. And that's just for you when you're planning to ensure that you've used or you've included something from each of those in your story. So we have looked at DAD waivers already once before when we were doing the water tower. So if you just have another look, these DAD waivers is an acronym. So basically each letter stands for something. So the D is description, where you're creating an image in the mind of the reader. A is action, using verbs to bring characters to life. D is dialogue, using speech to move the story forward. Where, have a few settings where the story takes place. An adverb, which helps to develop description. A verb, which is obviously to help action words and maybe help the character understand the character better. An estimation of time is using fronted adverbials to up-level writing, so it could be in that moment, or yesterday, or as a result of the disagreement yesterday, or you could have last week. So when you're referring to when something's happened, or maybe predicting something happening in the future, you can use adverbials of time. Estimation of time, rhetorical questions can get the reader thinking. So remember, a rhetorical question is one that doesn't need an answer, but you say it to get people thinking about what they think the answer could be. And similes or metaphors, as we've already discussed in figurative language, helps to make your writing flow, helps to add description. If you include all of these things and you do them really well, you'll be working at the expected level, definitely, and maybe even moving into greater depth. Okay, so it's really, really important that you include these things in your writing and that you use your DAD waivers planning sheet as well. Okay, adverbial phrases. So an adverbial phrase is a group of words that have the same impact as an adverb. They modify a verb, adjective, adverb, clause, or an entire sentence. Adverbial phrases can make a sentence more interesting and exciting. They tell us how, when, where, and why, and how long something has been going on for or has happened for. So, for example, you could use in a while, after school, it is every day, very quickly, in the classroom, because they're happy it went badly. Adverbial phrases help to add more information to a sentence. They can describe how something happened or will happen. They can show time and tell us where something happened. They can also explain why. Okay, so lots and lots of information in adverbial phrases, so it's really important to include them in your writing. You'll probably do it without even realizing, but it is important to make sure that you're fully describing every part of this story. Okay, so let's move on to planning our story. So remember, we're writing a story about something that has been lost and needs to be found. You already made the list yesterday of the non-material feelings that you are going to base your story on. So you remember I asked you to choose one or two that you would like to write about. It could be freedom, friendship, love, happiness, or something else. So the structure we're going to follow is the structure that we use for all our narratives when we're writing in school, the structure of the story mountain. So remember, your opening in your plan is the introduction to the character or setting. Your build-up is the introduction to the problem. The climax, this is when there is a battle between good and bad and when our character needs to face the problem. Resolution is how the problem is solved, and ending and moral, what has the impact been on the character. Now each of these is one paragraph in your story, okay? Your task is to write your own plan for your story following this structure. Remember to write in brief sentences and keep it safe so you can write your story tomorrow. I have created my own plan for you to see as an example, and I'm going to show you on the next slide. But I would like you to pause here and just write down the list of the structure so that you have it as a reminder when you are doing your plan. Okay, so here is the plan example that I have done. So my story starts with the setting being in a house, and the character is called Jacob, who is a very quiet boy who has no friends, spends his days indoors, and he doesn't actually go to school. So that would be my introduction to the story. So the problem being introduced is that he has been told now by his mum that he has to go to school, and he's terrified because he's so shy and he's full of anxiety. He doesn't know how he's going to manage. He knows for his own happiness and to avoid any more loneliness that he needs to go to school, but he just doesn't know how he's going to manage. So his first day arrives at school and it is an absolute disaster. He's picked on, he gets lost, he doesn't know where he's going, he doesn't know what to do, and it is the worst day. And then he decides at the end of that day, I'm not going back to school. I'm not interested in it. It's too much. The people are too horrible and it's not happening. So as a resolution, Jacob's mum makes him go back to school the next day, but that day he actually makes friends with a boy called Mark, who also used to be picked on just like him, and together they stand up to anyone that is being horrible to them, and they look after each other really well and become very, very good friends. And in time, Jacob realizes that actually this is what he was looking for. He was looking for a true friend and someone that could give him support and make him happy. And in the end, Michael does achieve that happiness and the friendship, and he's really excited to then be a part of school life and made lots more friends. So that's my story. Okay, so you can do something similar along these lines, or you can do your own story, but it needs to be written well. So your plan needs to be really good and detailed. If it's detailed, then when it comes to writing, you're going to find it a lot easier. So if you would like some advice on your plan, please can you email it to the email address year6@grange.harrow.sch.uk, and we can give you some advice and maybe help you out with your plan, just so that it's clear and it's structured and it follows a logical sequence. Okay, good luck, and I will speak to you tomorrow.